And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. Let's get there. So hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share because the lunacy, it's never stopping. And under this administration, President Trump has used law enforcement for his own political gain, creating literally chaos in cities like Los Angeles, D.C., and most recently, now in Portland, Oregon, by sending his troops in. I mean, as we saw this morning, Trump amped up his threats by telling the military that he would need their assistance. Oregon has sued President Trump to block him from deploying the National Guard, similarly to California's lawsuit in June. Now, on my Mea Culpa podcast, I spoke with former DC Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone, who knows what it's actually like to put on the badge and uniform under the Trump administration. Play the clip.
Policing is an incredibly dangerous job. I think that as much attention has been brought to policing in this country, especially under this administration with the weaponization of law enforcement, we forget that there are a lot of selfless individuals who take the oath and who are out there on the streets every single day trying to keep us safe. And I feel for their families. I've eulogized officers that died in the line of duty, and I know how heartbreaking that can be for their families and their colleagues.
I mean, this to me was yet again a senseless act. They went, I believe, to serve a warrant, and the guy was waiting sort of in a cornfield for them, and then ended up opening fire again, taking the lives of 3 additional officers. My understanding, and I know I read it somewhere, more than 300 officers killed this year alone in the line of duty.
Yeah, I mean, again, it speaks to the dangerousness of the job and the type of individual that's attracted to that work. That would be willing to risk his or her life to keep their community safe. It's senseless. It's unfortunate, but also we have an issue in this country with gun violence. It's not always just innocent school children that are the victims. Law enforcement officers also pay a heavy price for too many guns on the streets in the hands of too many criminals.
Yeah, amen to that one. So, Mike, look, having lived through violence in the line of duty yourself, can you walk us through what that does to the morale of officers across the country? Because this is not just isolated now emotionally to Spring Grove, to Pennsylvania. This is all across the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just speak from experience. I mean, and the instances that I witnessed, in I remember there was a Corporal Goggins, who was a police officer in Prince George's County that I knew, and he was shot and killed pursuing a suspect from a carjacking. And I mean, it had a devastating effect on, not only his department, but all the surrounding agencies. It's terrifying. It's frustrating that, it seems like, regardless of who is the victim, whether it's police officers who are, selflessly patrolling their communities and trying to keep them safe, or whether it's school children, there's just a, inability to act in a meaningful way to address these issues.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that, or do you believe that we're seeing a trend where law enforcement itself is becoming the target in America's political and cultural wars? Because when you have, for example, the National Guard federalized and sent to the streets, for example, of Los Angeles, or what was supposed to be Chicago, and now it's going to be Memphis or wherever else that they, or Washington, D.C. for that matter. Do you believe that this is causing police officers to become targets?
I do. And, I remember vividly what it was like to be a police officer, in 2015 through 2020 during the Black Lives Matter movement. And, obviously this country was in an uproar over a lot of polarizing incidents involving law enforcement and communities of color. Um, I think that, while it's important to focus on those aspects of the moment, it's also important to focus on the reaction. We had law enforcement officers who were assassinated for simply putting on a uniform and getting into a car. I mean, I went to the funerals of Wenjin Liu and Rafael Ramos in New York City. I'm sure you remember.
Oh,
These
I remember it
two
very, very
officers,
vividly.
all they were doing was working some overtime, sitting in a marked car, and an individual walked up and
Mhm.
killed them. And that occurred all over the country. I mean, you had the Dallas Five, the five officers in Dallas that were actually working a Black Lives Matter rally or march, and they were shot and killed. You had Louisiana on a traffic stop. An officer there that was shot and killed. I mean, it was an epidemic that was happening at that time. And I remember having conversation after conversation about how, we hate as law enforcement officers being politicized. We hate it when, and obviously it was at that time, it was left leaning politicians that were weighing into this conversation. And I think in a lot of cases, they created this environment in which people believed, and there were other actors in that as well, but they created an environment in which people believed that communities of color were under attack by law enforcement. And yes, there were egregious acts, and there is a history there that has yet to be addressed, in which law enforcement has played a role in oppressing some of these communities, many of these communities. But I didn't think that the way the conversation was being handled by our political leaders was benefiting anyone. Fast forward now to 2025, and you see the reverse effect. You have a political, an administration that is telling cops to go out there and do whatever the hell you want to do. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cops that were around during the BLM protests that felt demonized, dehumanized, and humiliated, that are embracing this opportunity to get revenge on the communities that they feel have, taken them for granted. And so, my argument to these guys is, you didn't like being politicized then. Why are you embracing being politicized now? Because it's so obvious that this administration doesn't actually care about cops. They're not doing anything meaningful to bolster law enforcement's capabilities. In fact, most of the funding bills, they've cut funding from law enforcement programs for training, et cetera, et cetera. And so all of this, is performative in the way that Trump embraces law enforcement. But it appeals to a lot of police officers, and the long-term effects of that are going to be, you're going to see officers go out like we have, like ICE agents, and even some local police departments, and have been heavy-handed with the communities. And now, and when all of this is done, when the Trump administration is gone, those communities, that trust that they've broken, will still exist, And people will remember, just like people remember law enforcement's role in 1930s Germany and the things that they did to Jewish residents in seizing property, in going in and arresting people for simply being Jewish. I mean, you're seeing a lot of similarities there to the way that law enforcement officers are behaving now, at the direction of this administration, whether it's going in and arresting people for just being, of a certain ethnic persuasion, and you can't even make the argument anymore that it has to do with their legal residency, because we've seen now countless scenarios in which legal residents, even U.S. citizens, have been detained, some for multiple days and weeks. And then you've also seen, American citizens targeted with other agencies. I mean, nobody could speak to it better, I think, than you in being, imprisoned or being investigated, and understanding what the impact of that is, the cost of that is. It's devastating to the average American. I mean, we're talking about going up against the federal government that's now been weaponized against Trump's, opponents.
Yeah, I mean, there is no beating the federal government. I don't give a shit if you're Michael Fanone, Michael Cohen, or Elon Musk. I don't care whether you have. It makes no difference. You could be, you could have no money, or you could be the richest guy in the world. It doesn't matter. You're never richer than the United States government, and you're never more powerful than the president. Plain and simple. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.